I had written a spec X-Files. I don't know if you remember that show.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
David Duchovny.
I'd written a spec X-Files, and my agent sent it to Dimension Films, and an executive there, Richard Potter, wanted to have a general meeting. And general meetings are when, they read your material. They don't particularly have a project in mind for you. They just want to get to know you.
They've liked what you've
They
written.
like what you
right?
did, so they want to put a face, to the name. So my agent sets up this meeting with Richard, and I'm sitting in the lobby of Dimension Films. The meeting, let's just say arbitrarily, was at noon.
Okay.
I get there early because I'm a Virgo, and I'm, I always want to be on time. So I get there like 11:45. So 11:45, 12, 12:15, 12:30, 12:45.
Oh, man.
And I'm thinking, I'm just going to go. I'm just going to get up and go. I was getting so annoyed. Like, I've been here, like, no one's even saying we're running late, nothing.
Yeah.
Just as I'm about to get up, the assistant comes out and says, "I'm so sorry, Richard's, running behind. We'll take you in." I go in. I have a fantastic meeting with Richard. Here's the thing. As a writer, it's very rare. You know that you're doing well when people respond to your work because they buy it. But beyond that, it's usually just criticism. So even if they buy something from you, then the next meeting you have is notes. So they're just criticizing it, right, basically, with their notes. Like, this is what's not working. And so it's very rare that you sit across from someone who compliments you. And he was very complimentary on the work.
That's great.
And he said, "I'd love to find something for you here. The only project we have in development is a direct-to-video Halloween 7. Now, I'm a huge Halloween fan. That was like one of the first horror films I saw. It scared the bejesus out of me. And I'm like, he's like, "Are you interested?" I'm like, "Yeah, I don't care if it's direct-to-video. That sounds amazing." He said, "Okay, we're going to have you meet with Mustafa Akkad, who was the rights owner."
Yep.
Mustafa. And now it's Malik who's taken over.
Yep.
And, have you meet with him and see if you have a take on what Halloween 7 would be. So I met with Mustafa, which was a great experience because I had seen the name, Mustafa Akkad Presents.
Oh, yeah.
Like on all those Halloween, that's the first thing you see. And I'm telling you, it's like I can smell, he smoked a pipe. I could smell it. I could see him. He sat in this tall chair in his office in Century City. He had the pipe.
So cool.
he had he probably didn't have a smoking jacket, but in my head, that's what I see. But it was some kind of, maybe it was just a sport coat.
For the purpose of this story, it was a smoking
jacket.
Okay.
But he was he had a little twinkle in his eye, but there was always a guarded. And I realized after working with him that he's very guarded of Michael Myers.
He's very protective, yeah.
Very protective because that's
his baby.
His baby. That's his IP. That's his franchise. So I met with him and Paul Freeman, who was a producer. Malik wasn't in that meeting. And at the time, Malik was in college at USC Film School.
And Malik, just to clarify, is Mustafa's son.
Who now runs the Empire.
Yep. Because Mustafa passed away.
Yes,
tragically, yeah.
With his daughter.
Yeah.
I don't think I pitched my take on it then, but he said, "Okay, come back, pitch something." So I wrote up a treatment, and I was in competition with maybe 3 or 4 other writers, and they picked my idea. So great. So then I go in, I get notes on the treatment from Paul Freeman, and I think maybe Malik was in some of those meetings.
Okay.
And was introduced as my son. This is my son Malik. He's in film school. He's going to be here. Went off, wrote a draft. I think it was the first draft, and that was called Two Faces of Evil.
Two Faces of Evil. Yep, I remember.
Wrote that draft, and didn't hear much until I got a call from my agent who said, Bob Weinstein wants to have a meeting with you. Now, Bob Weinstein of the Weinstein brothers, Harvey and Bob. Bob ran Dimension Films. Harvey Weinstein ran Miramax. And I'd never met with Bob. I'd heard about Bob.
Okay.
Not great things. Some things never change.
Right.
So I was nervous about that meeting. So I go into the meeting with Bob. It's the only meeting I've ever had with him. And he said, "I have good news." And he says, "I read your draft." I said, "Okay." He says, "I have good news and I have bad news." And I said, "Okay." He says, "The bad news is we're not making this script. We're not making this movie." And I said,
okay.
Well, what's the good news?"
Yeah, exactly.
He says, "The good news is I've called Jamie Lee Curtis. She wants to be a part of this. It's going to be a 20-year. It's not going to be direct to video. It's going to be theatrical release." Like, my mind's just exploding. I'm like, holy crap, what is happening?
It becomes this big thing.
Yeah. And he says, "Do you think you can adapt what you did here to have Jamie Lee as part of it?" And I'm thinking, yes. Can you imagine me
course.
going
Like the
like,
dream.
no, I don't think so, Bob.
No.
It's either
I'll
my
have to
vision
pass,
here
yeah.
or forget it. The deal's off.
I'll have to pass.
Yeah.
No Jamie Lee.
Can we be friends? Can we